Pretty good ways down through the list of names. April and Easton checking it out, all the way down through Nate and all the way to Sean on the list, but nothing that really had a big impact on us except for that one tropical storm in September, Tropical Storm Lee, that was a real soaker for us. And here, let's look at the season as a whole. Normally we see 11 named storms and 6 are hurricanes. Well, this year we expected an above average season, and that happened. We saw 18 named storms, but 6 were hurricanes, so not as many of the storms that formed actually became major systems. We had a lot of issues with upper level winds that really knocked down the intensity of a lot of the would-be storms. And taking a look at it, Arlene, a tropical storm, Brett, a tropical storm, Cindy, another open water Atlantic tropical storm, Don, a Gulf tropical storm. You get the idea here. A lot of the early systems were just tropical storms, even Emily and Franklin. But we finally, after Gert there and getting into Harvey and eventually Irene, found a hurricane, and this one was a big threat to the east coast of the U.S. However, it weakened quite a bit out here off the Carolinas, and by the time it worked its way up the eastern seaboard, it was primarily a rainmaker. It did produce some power outages into parts of North Carolina, Virginia, the Delmarva, New Jersey, and eventually making a final landfall there around Long Island. An interesting storm, but not as bad as it could have been. Jose was an open water tropical storm. Katia, a big-time hurricane out over the open waters of the Atlantic. And here's the one that had a big impact on our area right around the 3rd to 4th of September. Tropical Storm Lee, a slow mover, stalled off the Louisiana coast. That gave us abundant rains. In fact, the entire month of September, we saw 15 inches of rain after a big-time drought. So a lot of that, over 10 inches of that, coming with Tropical Storm Lee. Maria, an open water hurricane. Nate was a tropical storm in the Gulf. Ophelia, another major hurricane, but an open water system out in the Atlantic. So most of the storms were weak. A few did make it to hurricane strength, but those that did were out over the open waters of the Atlantic. We did see one Caribbean hurricane briefly late in the season with Hurricane Rena, and then we finished it out with Tropical Storm Sean. So that's a look at what we saw with our hurricane season 2011, a more active season than what we would typically see in a given year, but nothing that really had a big impact on our area other than Tropical Storm Lee.